Hey everyone, welcome to Onwards with Dr. Danielle. I'm Dr. Danielle Clark, and I'm really excited to be here today with you. Today's episode 2, is Hurt People, Hurt People. And we'll explore self-sabotage, we'll talk about other people hurting us, and we'll talk about ways to heal and set boundaries. Before we get started, just wanted to invite you into the energy of us. Now's a really great time to go get that blanket, go get that tea, water, journal, and settle in. And as I do that, I just want to say thank you for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. This is a live show with Win-Win Women Network, but no worries if you're watching the recording. It's still the same energy and information. I would like to invite you to stay after the half hour because I am going to be offering live assistance in the form of psychic readings, mediumship connections, or just Q&A. So if there's anything that I can do to help you on this journey of not being hurt, let me know, and I'm there for you. So yeah, I'm excited for that. And before I forget, if you're not already a part of my community, visit drdanielleclark.com, read more about me. I have my blog Onwards there. About every other week, I share a personal story focused on helping you heal from anything from self-judgment habits to grief to trauma. I usually share a little vignette from my life, and I pair it with an affirmation and a writing prompt focused on helping you to become the highest version of yourself and tap into your intuition. So yeah, and connect with me on social too. That would be fun. All right, great. So before we begin, I'm just gonna close my eyes and I invite you to do the same. I like to sway back and forth. I don't know, it gets me feeling connected to myself. It gets me feeling connected to universe. So if it feels right, close your eyes, do some swaying. And I really just want to share a few words. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for investing time and energy into getting to know yourself, into becoming a stronger, clearer version of yourself. Now recognize yourself. You're here not only for you, but for your loved ones, for your children, for your parents, for your coworkers. With your eyes closed, just bring in some positive energy right now. Get rid of all the muck of the day. Maybe picture something that gives you hope and peace, or makes you laugh. I always think of my dog Charlie running up and down singing Beach in Gloucester, Mass. It's my happy picture. Maybe do a few deep breaths. Beautiful, beautiful. And when you feel ready, open your eyes. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Heavy topics for today. I wanted to take an opportunity to have you ground yourself and to ground myself. All right, let's dig in. And just so you know, I have some notes on the computer. So if I happen to be looking not at you, it's not personal. I promise. I'm here, I'm present, but I'm also not the most techie. All right. So yes. Okay. The first topic I wanted to have us explore is unresolved trauma. A lot of the hurt that we're seeing, a lot of the self-sabotage or others hurting us It's because a lot of us are walking around with unresolved trauma. Some of us are aware that we're holding trauma, and many of us aren't. And today, I hope I can offer a little bit of an understanding of how unresolved trauma shows up and some of the things that we can do to spark a healing journey for ourselves or for others, because I imagine you're here for yourself and others. So if I say something about what you can do, and if it's not necessarily all for you, feel free to take that information and see how you can pass it along to someone. But just remember, we can lead the horse to water. We can't make it drink. And that's so important. You can give someone resources, you can give someone nudges, but if they're not ready to help themselves, there's nothing more we can do. Okay, unresolved trauma. How does it show up? In so many ways. It can show up as depression. It can show up as anxiety. It can show up as a need or a feeling of a tight gripping or codependency. Unresolved trauma can show up in addictive personalities. The sky is the limit. So if I already kind of hit something and you're like, oh, that's me, or oh, that's a loved one, you might want to lean into researching trauma and unresolved trauma a little bit more. I was someone that was walking around with unresolved trauma for years, decades, arguably. And I didn't fully realize my negative thought patterns and my destructive behavior until much later in my life, and how it connected to situations in my life that I hadn't fully processed. It actually wasn't until a few years ago, when I lost my job unexpectedly, that I really had the opportunity to look at myself with fresh eyes. I had emotional trauma, sexual trauma, physical trauma, and I thought I made sense of it, and I thought I healed. But what I realized after losing my job is I put a lot of my unresolved feelings into my work and became a workaholic. And then, of course, you can imagine, once I lost my job, my sense of identity, or my sense of shielding of having to do the hard work, was stripped. And then I really realized that I had some self-sabotaging behaviors, whether it was procrastinating, whether it was starting fights with my husband and then feeling bad about that, and then starting the fights because I was addicted to this chaos response, over drinking, all sorts of things. And I had just been in autopilot for so long, I hadn't realized. So first things first, to help yourself not self-sabotage, you need to get honest with yourself. Are you holding trauma? And again, research online is great. This might be an awesome conversation to have with a professional, such as a therapist. So put that there. And what's nice is, once we know someone's working with unresolved trauma, or we're working with ourselves, we're able to give ourselves a lot more patience and a lot more love, and we can use science and our intuition to help ourselves. I will tell you, though, don't fall trapped to thinking everything's fine, because everyone around us, it feels like it anyways, there's so many people walking around hurting themselves. Maybe it's overeating, maybe it's this procrastination that's unhealthy, maybe it's vaping, maybe it's starting fights with others, maybe it's drug use. It just feels like it's all around us. So it's really easy for us to say, oh, well, it's no big deal, right? Everybody does this, but it is a big deal. It's our soul, it's our life, it's our light. So I'd also say, don't compare yourself to anybody else. We're not here for status quo. A lot of us are in this status quo kind of a realm, and we're trying to up level, be that role model, be that light. So if you're doing anything over to escape yourself, it's self-sabotage. It doesn't need to be this drastic, I drank too much and I passed out, or I drank too much and I cheated on my partner. It can be something like you've procrastinated over and over again, causing yourself to get headaches and to get sick, or to get your boss upset with you, right? So just those unhealthy cycles, if you will. So why do we self-sabotage? It seems so silly, right? Because the number one thing we want in life is happiness, right? We all want to feel loved. We all want to have a creative expression of ourselves. And we want this sense of calm and ease, yet we self-sabotage, right? And a lot of the reason we might do that is because it's a lack of self-love. It's a lack of self-worth. And it actually gives us protection in a way. It gives us a story we can use to defend ourselves, right? For an example, maybe somebody on a weight loss journey or a health journey goes to the gym a few times a week, goes power walking a few times a week, but he or she then just has the monster binging at night, right? The full sleeve of Oreos and the full carton of ice cream, right? But then the next morning they wake up feeling less than, and it's this toxic cycle. But in some ways, the story serves them because it feeds their self-doubt. Well, I knew that I wasn't really going to lose weight, or there's no way that losing weight is for me, and so it actually protects them, because there might be some feeling of being scared, right? Well, what if they do eat lean and green? And what if they do go to the gym and maybe they still don't lose the weight they want, or they still don't want the energy level? They don't have the energy level that they're looking for, right? Sometimes we self-sabotage, right? Same thing. Maybe there's a promotion at work that we really want, like deep down inside, our heart is saying, up level, get that promotion. But then that self-hatred or that self-doubting voice just says you're not smart enough, you don't deserve this. And so we feed that voice by, again, doing what I mentioned earlier, that procrastinating at work, or maybe staying up too late at night so that way we're not our best self at work, right? And so we do that because then we can lean on it. Well, see, I told you, right? Or I didn't even work as hard as I could have for that promotion. It wasn't going to be for me anyways. So we feed the story. So this is a good pause opportunity for you to get honest with yourself. Like, where are you feeding a story? Where are you self-sabotaging yourself where you don't need to? That's an excellent one for you to lean into. For me, one example of many in my relationship with my husband, Ron, I'd always feel unfulfilled. I'm not getting enough attention. We're not having enough romantic connection. However, I'd also work 60, 70 hours a week, right? So you can see there's some self-sabotage there in a bit. Well, I wasn't making time for my husband. I wasn't making time for connection, but it was a nice story, right? Like, I'm unfulfilled in my marriage. I'm unhappy. Ron doesn't pay attention to me enough. But I was self-sabotaging, because then when I'd get home, I'd be exhausted. And I realized that a part of me was afraid to fully give myself to Ron. And I was afraid that maybe we couldn't find the real connection I was looking for. So I created that story. That's one of many examples from my history to help you. All right, so self-sabotage. What can you do? What can you do? One, get comfortable with pain, get comfortable with the darkness. Truth be told, where regardless of how much of a beautiful life we co-create with the universe, there's going to be pain and suffering. And the more comfortable we feel with the dark aspects of being human, the easier it is not to self-sabotage. A lot of us also self-sabotage because we're trying to kill the pain or numb the pain, right? Drug use over watching TV or YouTube videos is a perfect example, right? You've got stressors in your life, you have difficult conversations to have, you have bills that need to be paid, but as opposed to feeling the burn and having it motivate us, we then decide to go numb. So it's really, really important that you just get comfortable with the dark. There is light with the dark. It's there to teach us. Also realizing, and I think it's Glennon Doyle, and I love how she says this, choose your hard, right? Choose your hard. Quitting smoking is hard. Getting lung cancer is hard. Choose your hard. And this comes from a place of empowerment too, right? It's like we all have the power to discern, where are we going to put our energy? What are we going to work towards? So choose your hard. Going to the gym and taking care of ourselves is hard. Being obese and lethargic is hard. You have the power to pick your hard. That's another great, great one. Another thing, self-sabotage. If you're like, I don't even know if I self-sabotage or how to understand that, other people are mirrors for us. So see what you zoom in on. If you happen to be judgy, like, oh, she watches a lot of TV, that might be the mirror of like, no, you watch a lot of TV. Or if your boss is like controlling, it might be like, and you notice it and you feel it, it might be because you're also controlling. So that's one good way. Another good way is just like sitting, meditating, and getting honest with yourself is like, what are your goals and what do you do to move towards them? And what do you do to move away from them? You got to give yourself more self-love. Self-love is going to fill you up and make self-sabotage almost impossible, right? If we love ourselves, we're not going to hurt ourselves. Just like if we love our loved ones, we're not going to hurt them. Now, that doesn't mean that this is a perfect science. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have ugly times. We're going to have outbursts. But overall, that self-love is going to make sure that that self-sabotage isn't as deep or as dark as it could be. As I say that, one nice way to show yourself self-love is like a literal hug to yourself. You can put your hand on your heart, put the other on your belly. Breathe into it. Just give yourself a hug. Tell yourself, like, wow, I love you. Thank you for showing up. Thanks for doing the hard work. Self-love, whatever that looks like to you. More beach walks, more honoring what your soul wants, better food, better music, whatever that looks like. Self-love will help on that journey. Okay, great. Now let's talk about others hurting us, because it's not always ourselves that hurt ourselves. Others hurt ourselves, whether it's because they have that unresolved trauma, maybe it's jealousy, maybe they're just a bad apple. And I think that's really important to come to terms with. At the end of the day, we can psychoanalyze people, we can make reasons for people, we can make sense out of the way they operate, we can lean into our faith. But sometimes people are just bad apples. And I think that can give us a lot of peace too, is again, getting comfortable with the dark, right? We're here in the world and there's some light workers. And then there's also some that just aren't as light and bright. And as opposed to getting shocked or angry by that, there needs to be a level of acceptance, but that doesn't mean we don't put up boundaries. So don't confuse yourself there too. So here's the thing also, as it relates to others, the way that they act, it's typically to protect their selves, right? So as an example, if you have somebody gaslighting you, distorting your reality, right? What do you mean? I wasn't yelling last night. No, that wasn't a big fight. No, maybe something's wrong with you, right? You know that type that I'm talking about. Well, what they're really doing is they're protecting their, I'm going to call it unreality, right? They're hurting you and making you believe or feel like something's wrong with you so they can protect themselves, right? A manager that like hyper micro manages. Would you do 10 minutes ago? How did you do this? Why did you do this? I came by your desk, you weren't there. Well, that's obvious control problems, and they obviously have something unresolved, right? So what people show us, it's a reflection of how they see the world and themselves, not you. So you can't take it personally, but you can learn a lot about someone by that. And I do think it's important. There's going to be a lot of people that hurt us, some intentionally, some unintentionally. I do think it's important to have a higher philosophical understanding of why we experience the hard things in life, especially the things that on the surface where it's so hard to swallow, right? Rape, any kind of sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, like that's hard stuff. So create some sort of an understanding with the universe, right? Like why is that here? How can I make sense of that? I think you understanding your faith and the reasons from a higher level can also help you when hurt people are hurting you or trying to hurt you. So remember, they can try, but how you receive it's up to you. You are in the driver's seat. You are in power. My mentor, Robin, always says, shift happens. And I love the play on words, right? Shift happens. Suffering is optional. So important to remember. Let's see here. Okay, so what can you do when others are hurting you, right? One, tap in and see if maybe you're already off kilter a little bit, right? Sometimes it can feel like somebody's attacking us because we're not balanced, right? So maybe the person isn't as intense or isn't as destructive as it feels. Always do a check-in with yourself. That's so important. And just possibly expand your way of thinking. Don't look at things as good, bad, right, or wrong. I think that also goes into that leaning into your faith. And as opposed to adding negative energy to the negative energy and making it bigger, try and see the light and the power in what might be happening in that hurt. You know, as an example, I think of a police officer. A police officer couldn't be a police officer without the robber, right? Who knows? I wouldn't be here sitting with you today. I wouldn't be the healer I am today if it wasn't for my emotional, physical, and sexual abusers. And so again, leaning into higher concepts can really, really help ensure not that we don't get hurt, we're going to get hurt, but to make sure that it's a healthy hurt and that we recover and process from it in a way that serves us and serves our journey. Hurt people hurting us, and even when we hurt ourselves, so important. Boundary setting. And one of the key things that you can do is prime your environment, right? If you're known to overdrink, you probably don't want to have alcoholic beverages in your condo, apartment, home, right? It's just prime your environment. If you know that you over binge TV, well, who knows? Maybe get rid of the TV for a bit or unplug it and put it in the closet when you're not using it. So it's not at the forefront and you're conscious when you have to take it out of the closet and you have to plug it in. Another thing to look at is like, who are the people you're spending time with? There's been so many studies that show us like we are who we spend time with. Prime your environment, spend time with high vibing people that have the best interest for you. So that's really, really helpful in protecting ourselves from any kind of hurt. When you're working with those that are hurting you, remember you want to respond and not react. Respond and not react. And oftentimes that means giving yourself at least 30 to 90 seconds regulate your breathing, get back to yourself. You, again, don't want to add this negative energy on top of negative energy. And also accountability coaches can be great, like intuitive life coaches like myself. Feel free to set up an appointment or several with me if it calls to you. Sometimes you just need someone to say like, okay, where are you with that, right? And good job. And, you know, here's some structure that can really help as well. Difficult conversations, sometimes with ourselves, getting honest with ourselves, and getting honest with others is another really good way to set some boundaries. Like, hey, you can't talk to me that way. Or, hey, last time I saw you, you were very negative and I don't need that in my life. You should be having those conversations externally and also internally. Don't put up with it. Talk to yourself, right? Like, hey, Danielle, not cool that you spent that 5 minutes putting yourself down yesterday. That's not welcome here anymore. That's so important with that boundary setting. Other things that you can do, the hurt of the world, of ourselves, of others doesn't hurt nearly as much when we regulate our nervous system. And if you're not familiar with nervous system regulation, again, that's a really good term. Write down, do some research. There's so much that can be done there. A few things that come to mind and that I do, I really focus on decreasing inflammation in my body. And I do that through Epsom salt baths regularly. I do that by making sure I'm not eating a lot of high sugary foods. I'm also really good about removing overstimulation from my life. Keeps me grounded, keeps me clear, so that way I don't want to hurt myself and other people's hurt don't penetrate as deep. So what does that mean? I'm really good about setting boundaries about using my phone and not using my phone, having outside time with no electronics, going swimming in my pool, having quiet time where I'm not always talking on the phone or with people. So keep that in mind. Healthy socialization. There's so many of us out there lonely right now. Invite somebody to a coffee shop. Talk to somebody at a coffee shop, find a book club, find a group. Socialization is such a great way to regulate the nervous system. Understanding your chakras is a really, really great technique as well for you to regulate your nervous system. And then just using your imagination, similar to what we did earlier, that visualization, that just closing your eyes and centering yourself and bringing yourself somewhere happy, or thinking about a moment or a loved one that just really gives you joy. Those are just some of many techniques that can regulate the nervous system. And the more steady we are, that hurt, we're not going to want the hurt, which means we're going to be able to just kindly not bring it as close to us. I wanted to close off with some affirmations that I think are really going to help you on your journey. Let me share these three with you, and feel free to close your eyes if you want. So this first one, and these are all from my blogs on Onwards at drdanielleclark.com. So the first one is, I embrace the darkness and know it will show me the light. I accept my discomfort and welcome change. And the next one, I trust divine timing. I believe the universe has placed challenges in my life so that I can learn and grow. I'm going to give that one again. I really like that one for you. I trust divine timing. I believe the universe has placed challenges in my life so that I can learn and grow. And the last one, I trust myself to sit in the darkness and feel it all. I am not afraid. Beautiful, beautiful. And as we come to a close, I want to remind you, it's the cracks in your heart that let the light shine in. I hope you've received my healing energy and my love. I hope you've received a lot of important understanding and things to investigate and explore. If you want to talk about anything related to this episode or beyond, stay with me for the live half hour. I'm here to answer questions and, again, tap in from a mediumship perspective or a psychic perspective. Next episode is Friday, this upcoming Friday, and it's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And our next episode, episode 3, is all about connecting with your loved ones in spirit. So if you're feeling stuck, maybe there is some hurt, maybe there is some trauma. If you're feeling stuck, I'm going to help you understand how to receive messages and how to more clearly deepen that relationship with your loved one in spirit, whether it's mom, whether it's grandpa, whether it's your child or your loved one. So that way you'll be able to really integrate their love and their advice into your journey to help you move onwards. All right, my dears, we are at time. I am sending you love and light. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for spending this sacred time with me. Bye now.